All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Social Media and the Sierra Club. I'm really happy that everybody can join us today. This webinar walks through mostly Twitter, and it goes through the very basics of Twitter because I know that a lot of people don't use Twitter. In fact, I didn't really use Twitter until I started working with the Sierra Club, and I found that I really like it in terms of an organizer and organizational standpoint. In addition to talking about Twitter in a more in-depth context, I'll also really briefly be going over other possible social media platforms that folks could consider looking into, but we might not yet have the capacity to really dive into some of those, so I'm not taking a ton of time on them, but just informing what they are and how they could be used in a helpful way. So some of those include Pinterest, which the chapter does have a Pinterest account, YouTube, the chapter also has a YouTube account, and then a handful of other possible social media platforms that the chapter or even groups could consider looking into. So as we start with the webinar, we're going to focus this first section on Twitter, including the very, very basics, how do you use Twitter, but then going more in depth on how it could be used effectively from an organizational standpoint rather than an individual standpoint. So here's a really brief cheat sheet for Twitter. There's a lot of lingo that goes along with using Twitter. So the posts that you make are called tweets. There's ways to retweet things, which is similar to sharing on Facebook, so sharing the tweet of someone else. The @ symbol is how you tag someone, which is, again, how you tag people on Facebook. Hashtags are used to link conversations together, things that are trending, big news stories, and oftentimes, especially in movement spaces or organizational spaces, there are usually hashtags that go along with large movements. Notably for us, hashtag Stop Tar Sands, hashtag Act on Climate. This week is Stop Oil Trains Week, so hashtag Stop Oil Trains is being used by a lot of groups. Those are just some example of hashtags that are trending or useful to use. Other important lingo that goes along with Twitter or basics that you might need to know is trending, which means the most popular topics that are being discussed, big news stories. Sometimes this is like weird jokes that people are sharing a lot, or memes. And then a handful of other things to know about Twitter is that you are limited in number of characters, which means that if you are using a picture, you should be using less than 120 characters. If you want people to retweet and give you credit, you should be using less than 120 characters, but your overall maximum number of characters for most posts will be 140. So keeping things brief and using images is really important to make Twitter useful. There are other features that can be used, like direct messaging and lists, which are more helpful, I think, to individual users than to organizational accounts. But there are possibilities that could be looked into being used more creatively. So I'm actually going to switch my screen to our actual internet browser and show you how to log in. If you want to create an account, you'll click sign up, and typical to signing up for anything else. But if you have an account, you log in at the top right corner and you'll get to this page. If you're wanting to tweet, you click this button in the corner that says tweet, and that's where you type things, attach your image, you can add a poll, you can tag your location. So if we're live tweeting an event in Milwaukee, it might be cool to tag that we're in Milwaukee, and you just type into the box and hit tweet. It's pretty simple, user-friendly, but I know that a few of the people who are considering hopping on this webinar haven't even seen Twitter before, so I wanted to start at an accessible level for people who are attending or viewing this in the future. So as you're on your home screen here for Twitter, you'll see several different things you can look at. There are suggested people to follow. There's your number of tweets and followers and the people you're following, and then whatever's trending. So for example, the event that happened in Dallas is trending right now. It's a very big news item and a lot of people are talking about it. So that's one of the top trends right now. You can change your trend preferences. So that can be tailored for you based on the people that you like and you follow and that are in your geographic area. You can also change them so that it's more general, more broad. So for Sierra Club, for example, while our office is based in Madison, we work statewide and even sometimes regionally in coalition. And so I have tailored our trends to be more broad so that we get that more regional picture rather than just Madison. And then the large part of your screen here is your feed. That's where posts will show up from the people you follow. Clicking through, Moments is just an overview of what people around the world are posting in large news stations. And then notifications can be accessed here, which is very similar to accessing Facebook notifications. So anytime someone follows you, retweets, or tweets to you, that'll show up there, and then direct messaging is here. So that's kind of the walkthrough of the layout of Twitter. If you click your profile and view it, it brings you to a different page. This is what your profile looks like, and similar to Facebook, it's very customizable. So you can edit your cover photo image, you can edit your profile picture, and you can edit the colors that are used here, so that's kind of fun. Yeah, your theme color can be changed and customized. So if your organization has certain logo color, that can be used to give your page more personality. Yeah, and these are all of the posts that you have posted. The tweets that you've made will show up here, and then pictures are accessible in the About You section. So that's a very brief layout of what Twitter looks like, and the very basics on how to use it. But I would love to dive in more to the details, because I think a lot of people, once they're on Twitter, it's fairly user-friendly and can figure out a lot of it the more that you're on it. So I want to talk about how it can be used effectively for organizations. So the nice things about Twitter, especially in comparison to Facebook, is that Twitter allows you to post way more often. It doesn't have the same weird algorithm that Facebook does, where posting very limited number of things per day will increase the number of people who sees it on Facebook. Whereas on Twitter, it's nothing is, I shouldn't say nothing, but fewer things are weighted more heavily. And so you can post very, very frequently without being concerned that you're overposting. Of course, you shouldn't be posting every 5 minutes, but again, more frequently, which allows more content, even if it is shorter text. It's also nice because it's designed for sharing content more easily and reaching new people. So Twitter is really great for using hashtags. Facebook, while they've figured it out, aren't awesome at it, and more people don't engage with it that way. Whereas Twitter, hashtags become very important. A lot of people do follow hashtags rather than just following pages. And it allows for easier sharing. There's not as many steps to click through to retweet something as there is to share on Facebook. It also allows you to live tweet events, which can help you find new followers and people maybe who aren't members yet, but who might like the work that you're doing. And it's really designed for two-way communication. Mentioning people with the @ sign encourages people to tweet back at you or retweet, communicating back and forth. And that's really exciting because, again, it allows that very personal interaction, even though it's in an online space. That makes this platform really, really unique in terms of social media. Unlike Facebook, where you can sometimes ask for shares, but it's not acceptable to only post, hey, share this or copy and paste this, Twitter actually is okay with you, like the Twitter community, I should say, people who use Twitter are really okay with you asking for retweets, which might feel strange at first, but saying like, hey, retweet this to get the message out is really acceptable on Twitter because that's partly what it's designed for. And again, it allows us to be intentional about messaging. And I've found as I've used Twitter for the Sierra Club, it makes me think more critically about what our message is because I have less letters. So every letter in that post is really important. You only have 140 of them. And so it helps me actually to hone in, okay, what is this article I'm sharing really about? Or what is the very, very top line message that's important to share? How can I summarize this more effectively? So I think it allows for a lot of really critical thought about what our messaging can be. Before I jump into this, I also want to say that Twitter allows for a little bit more sassiness and sarcasm. Facebook, because you have more characters, you can really express your point, type more about what you're trying to say. You can really, I don't know, thoroughly express yourself. Whereas Twitter is shorter, and so you can be a little more sassy or sarcastic with things. It's more acceptable. And Twitter users tend to be a much younger demographic than Facebook users. And so, again, that kind of like sassiness, humor, or sarcasm it does really well on this social media platform. Something that I'm really excited about is seeing the potential of our Twitter account improve and hopefully looping in more people who are excited about using this social media platform to help post on Twitter. Right now it's mostly me, and sometimes Elizabeth posts from live events, but I'm hoping that we can continue to grow effectiveness of using this. Just a few examples of what I've been using our Twitter platform to share out that's been doing really well are a few of these graphic posts, and then I have several other examples after this to hopefully start brainstorming ideas for how this might be useful for your issue team or local group, or even for you to contribute to the chapter's Twitter account. So I frequently check Twitter in the morning just to see what is trending, to see if there's something that Sierra Club can share that bounces off of a common hashtag or a trending hashtag that day. And one Monday morning, I woke up and the hashtag Motivation Monday was trending. It was doing really, really well that day. And I'd seen this really funny picture of John Muir photoshopped in front of this beautiful background, and it kind of looks like he's taking a selfie. And so I shared that with a quote from him, and it did really well. It's something lighthearted, but it was shared a lot, and we gained 7 new followers that day, just from people seeing this kind of funny, lighthearted picture that was a positive quote about nature, motivating people on a Monday. It allowed for something a little more upbeat to contribute to that hashtag while still sharing our values of protecting the environment. Something else that did really well was last year when the Supreme Court established marriage equality nationwide and the hashtag #LoveWins was trending. The National Sierra Club Executive Director put out a pretty powerful press statement, and so we shared this graphic that is designed really quickly on a called Canva, and again did really well. And so it's just kind of a fun way to engage with our audiences and reach new people. But we can also use it in a more serious way as well, including promoting actions and campaigns, so sharing articles or links to petition action items. Asking people to retweet your petition actually does really well. And again, hopping on kind of fun trending hashtags to reach a new audience that we might not typically reach. And while those people might not become members, they might not become active volunteers, they might see something that we share and follow us and start to be engaged maybe with an online petition or retweeting something about phasing out coal plants. I don't know. It's just a way to reach new audiences that I feel like we've left untapped before. And I've mentioned this a few times. It can be really fun to live tweet events as well. This action happened a year ago in collaboration with 350 Madison. We flew the Enbridge Octopus outside of Scott Walker's window, and we're live tweeting that day. Other effective habits on Twitter are to continue to diversify your information. And again, as I've shown you, there are lots of ways to engage with Twitter. So it can be some of those inspirational quotes that we like to share. It can be more serious about campaigns. It can be a call to action. There are a lot of really diverse ways to share information. And just like Facebook, you're able to share links and pictures and video clips. You're able to retweet or share content that other groups or allies share, and then again participate in conversations more broadly using hashtags. Something that I've mentioned a few times that I want to reiterate is that on Twitter, regular posts with really genuine personality are important. People will be able to tell if you just have scheduled generic posts that go out every couple of days. So putting that personal spin is really important, and logging in to interact with people, people who tweet at you information, liking what they've shared, and things like that. And so as we're skimming down the amount of content that we're sharing on Facebook to prioritize the handful of items that are most important, so that we can use that platform in a more strategic way. Hopefully some of the content that might not fit in the Facebook schedule can be shared all over the place on Twitter due to just the different platform and the amount of posts that are acceptable and optimized on each of those. So I just went through a lot of information ranging from the very basics of how to log in, create an account, as well as how to creatively use Twitter. So before I move into some other social media platforms that we're going to talk about in a very basic way, I wanted to see if there were any questions. So I'm going to unmute all of you and let me know if you have any questions about Twitter. These can be really basic or more in-depth. Media platform that the chapter actually does have an account for is Pinterest, which is like an online scrapbook or bulletin board that lets you pin photos or videos. And I've seen it being done really well by some organizations in a really creative way. Stereotypically, Pinterest is used for popular women's fashion, recipes, and crafting. So it's a very female-dominated social media platform. When it first launched, it wanted to draw in a lot of people by acting like it was something exclusive. So the weird thing about creating a Pinterest account is that you actually cannot create an account unless someone invites you to create an account, which actually helped Pinterest get off the ground and spread quickly because it encouraged users to email their friends about the social media platform, which was very annoying when it first started. But yeah, so if Pinterest sounds interesting to you on a personal or professional level, let me know, and I'd be happy to send you an invite, but just an FYI about creating an account with them. Pinterest looks like this. You log in and access your account in the top right corner as well as notifications. You scroll through, and this is a mix of people that you're following as well as suggested posts. You'll see, since this is the Sierra Club account, there's a lot of landscape photography, infographics about fracking, information about, trees and different types of wood, right? So there's lots of very interesting mix of things that tries to be customized to the user. And when you see something you like, you're able to save it and access it later. So again, it's kind of an online bulletin board, but ways that we've used it is for example, I've put together a social media tips Pinterest board on the Sierra Club Wisconsin account so that any of our active members or leaders who are interested in using social media have all of this kind of cool information about social media accessible all in one place. We've also used it for Autumn Assembly in the past. So if you go to our Autumn Assembly bulletin board or Pinterest board, you'll see that we have links to all of the speakers. So you click on the image and it'll go to the website that you have linked. So this is the Joy Trip Project, which is what James Edward Mills' organization is, and he was one of our speakers last year. I have links to information about awards, right? So it's just an online way of storing a lot of links all in one place with a lot of pictures. It can be cool. I haven't really seen if it works super well for us to spend a lot of time on it, but it is, again, a nice place to keep a lot of links all in one place. So yeah, it's a very, very brief overview of Pinterest. I'm going to continue with a few other social media platforms, and then I'll take questions about these other platforms at the end. So yes, very brief description of Pinterest. Again, a lot of the users are young adults to middle-aged women, but it could be creative. I've seen a few organizations do it well, but I haven't seen it take off in the same way. Something that has gone over really, really well that most Americans use, whether they have a YouTube account or not, is YouTube. And it is a place to store and share video content, but YouTube can also be used as a social media platform where you can comment and interact and message different YouTube users and communicate that way. So it can be more interactive. You're able to like and to share and to favorite videos, add them to playlists. I would say that from a functional standpoint, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to establish as an organization a huge YouTube personality where you're commenting on other people's stuff and liking it and being really interactive on that platform. Instead, I think YouTube has shifted, so a lot of organizations are just using it as a place to store their videos so that they can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, at any time with internet access, including shared on Facebook. And so I think that's the direction YouTube is kind of heading. In terms of YouTube accounts, I'm going to be very upfront and let you know that since Google and YouTube merged, creating an account has gotten much more complicated because when you get a Gmail account, you automatically have a ghost YouTube account set up. So if you use Gmail for any reason, whether that's Google Docs or your email account, you have a YouTube account whether you know it and use it or not. That gets hard when it comes to creating an organizational account because you have to detach your Gmail and your YouTube account, and I'm trying to do that for the chapter right now, and it's very, very challenging. So to be upfront, I'm still learning about the newest version of YouTube, but on a very basic level, it's a great place to store and share videos. A few other platforms, social media platforms that could be considered in the future, but that, again, would take a lot of time to start up and be really involved with, and so I don't know if it makes the most sense to pursue these yet, are Instagram, which is a photo sharing website. It's really built on the idea of building narrative through image, which Sierra Club National does really, really well. Wikipedia, most people have used Wikipedia. It's an online encyclopedia. I read somewhere once that if your organization does not have a Wikipedia page, its online presence is not complete yet. So most people don't think of that as a social media platform, but it is. You're able to create accounts and edit content. So that's another option. LinkedIn is a more business and professional version of Facebook, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. But a lot of organizations, again, create LinkedIn accounts, especially if they frequently are looking for volunteers or to hire people, because you're able to search potential volunteers based on interest. And so that could be an interesting way for us to consider in the future to find potential new members or volunteers. Google Plus. Again, you're automatically given this account when you sign up for Gmail, so we as an organization already have one, and all of you as individuals probably have one as well. It has not taken off yet. Google just forces you to have one. I don't think it's the most strategic platform. Not a lot of people use it actively. It's an option. Has some cool features like creating groups, and Google Hangouts are pretty useful for long-distance video calling, but that can be, I don't know. So, yeah, Google+. We can talk more about that if you have questions. Snapchat and Periscope, I think, are probably the most time-intensive of these options. Snapchat accounts would take a lot of maintaining, and you'd also, I think for us, it would make the most sense for an outings person to have one because they are outside and do some more exciting stuff, whereas if I use the Snapchat account from the office, I would just be taking pictures of me sitting at my desk. But Snapchat allows for live, up-to-date video and picture sharing. The interesting thing about it is that the images disappear after a short amount of time, but also it's one of the most widely used platforms among the younger demographics. So the average Snapchat user is 14 years old, which is quite young. And it's actually replacing texting for a lot of young people. They'll just use Snapchat instead of sending text messages. So it's a very, that app has a lot of momentum and it's growing in a pretty significant way. But again, from an organizational standpoint, it would take a lot of work to maintain. And finally, and actually Jim brought this up to me, is Periscope. which is a live video sharing app. So you download it on your phone and you're able to live stream videos, and it actually merges really well with Facebook. So you're able to connect the two and live stream your video both to Facebook and through the Periscope app itself. From all of the indicators that I read about social media and where it's headed, many analysts point to Periscope as the next big thing. People also said that about Google+, and it was not the next big thing. So I'm not really sure where it's headed, but it does have some interesting potential, especially for some of our events or actions, especially rallies that we plan. Could be kind of cool to be used that way. Yeah, so that's some of the biggest social media platforms right now that have different potential for us. As I said, I don't think it makes sense for us to expand in this direction very much, but I know that these are terms and apps that are being thrown around a lot by especially the students that I work with that are becoming more and more engaged with the Sierra Club, and so I think having this information is useful for engaging with those different audiences. And as my generation gets older, will become, I think, more normalized, but we are in that tricky transition where print is still really important to us, and I don't think that we should be switching all of our communications to social media by any means. I just think that it gives us interesting options to consider moving forward. So I am going to unmute everyone again. I just went through a lot of information about many different social media platforms, and I'm not expecting us to for sure use all of these or I don't know, dive into them, but I would love to hear if there are any questions about anything I just went over.
This is Don. Just a couple comments on different things. One is I heard that Snapchat just came out with something called Memories, so you can access your archive of past photos and so on. But one thing with YouTube in particular, it seems like, I think I've seen Liz and some other people, do videos along, for people to tell stories about various campaign issues. Do you regard? It seems to me like that's probably an effective way of, doing videos and then, posting them to Facebook or linking them through Twitter or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, studies suggest that videos on social media are more viewed and people engage with them more than with like text or even link sharing or picture sharing. Videos are the most engaging to audiences right now, especially very brief, like 30 seconds or shorter is kind of the new. So yeah, being able to record your story about why a campaign matters to you, seeing the face of another human really expressing concern over something resonates really deeply with a lot of people. And so I think there's a lot of potential for us to use YouTube and other video sharing websites in a really strong way to build out stories of the people that live on this planet that we're trying to protect. Absolutely.
So is it important, say we're trying to connect with more people this way, to also make sure that you're going to have in-person events, so it's not just media and people? Is that a combined way to really build up your group or campaign or whatever else?
Yeah, I think that, and I'd love to hear other perspectives from people too, but I think that it's important to have a lot of these pieces. You can have campaigns that really start on social media or where social media is the driving factor, but it's always more successful if you have for us, for example, if we put something in the mirror view and we send an email blast and we post about it on Facebook and Twitter and we have a press conference, that's always going to reach the most people, and it's going to give people who prefer different methods of communicating with each other different ways to engage. So I think that your social media should help you build a better in-person presence rather than being like the main thing that you base your work on. But I'd love to hear if other people have insights, thoughts, or questions about that.
Hi, this is Lee.
Yeah, so then just like my Facebook webinar, I've included some links to resources that I encourage. As I mentioned several times, Twitter has very limited number of characters that you're able to use. So shortening links when you share them so that your link isn't your entire tweet is helpful. And so you can go to the website bit.ly or bit.ly to shorten a link. TinyURL also shortens links. So you can go to those websites and just copy and paste your long link in, and it'll shorten it for you so that it doesn't take up all of your characters. I've mentioned Canva and Piktochart before. Those are really cool and user-friendly ways to make your own graphics and infographics. They're what our Water Wednesday posts are made on, and so if you've been following the Water Sentinels or the chapter Facebook page and you've seen these Water Wednesday posts we've been doing, they're just made on that website. It's very user-friendly. And then I talked on the Facebook webinar that many of you took a lot about scheduling Facebook posts and how that's important. Twitter, you can do the same thing. You can schedule posts ahead of time so you don't have to sit at your computer forever and live tweet everything in your whole life. And you can do that by going to either tweetdeck.com or hootsuite.com, and you're able to pick the time and the date that you want your post to show up, which is what we do a lot here in the office, just because we don't have the capacity to have someone sit on Twitter all day, every day. And so scheduling things saves us a lot of time, but allows us to get a lot of information out. I usually take 15 minutes to a half an hour on Monday and schedule 5 tweets a day for the whole week. And it's just a really quick way to get information out. So those are a few more resources. And then if you have any questions, you can always call the office or email me. And then if you are a Pinterest user, you're able to follow Sierra Club Wisconsin, and you can access the Pinterest board that I put together with social media tips, if that sounds interesting to you. Okay, well, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you all for joining, and I'll talk to you all soon. I'll email out the link to this video and the PowerPoint as well.